Welcome back to another episode of Wealth with Joanne. I am your host, Joanne. I'm so happy to have you here. Today, I want to talk about how the nervous system uses anxiety to protect us. And of course, this has been inspired by the events that have been going down over the past, well, it's only been a week, but it feels like a long time, here in the UAE. But I think as well, this is going to help you wherever you are and wherever your nervous system anxiety situation is, because this does happen to all of us. And this is something that I've learned the hard way, that how the nervous system works, and that anxiety is not always a negative. So I just want to start by reminding you that it is okay to have some anxiety. The main thing is the way that we actually deal with it when it comes up. And I feel like once you've got the understanding of like, right, okay, this is what's actually happening here, we can begin to reframe it. So many people experience anxiety and immediately assume that something is wrong with them. I've been there, I've done it, that I shouldn't be feeling this way. Why am I so worried? And like this week when I've experienced anxiety again, those thoughts came up, those anxious thoughts of, oh my God, why am I feeling this way? Because I've done all the work and and I should have all these tools and I'm still waking up and I feel a little bit anxious. We automatically jump to thinking that we're weak, we're broken, or in my case this week, being overly sensitive. But from a biological perspective, anxiety is actually one of the body's most intelligent survival mechanisms. And when I learned this, I was like, wow. Hopefully you will be too. So the human nervous system, of course, over hundreds of years, thousands of years probably, I don't know the exact numbers there, has evolved. So we've gone from the early threats that we used to face, as in, I don't know, being chased by whatever. We used to get chased by predators. I'm not going to label a specific animal. Dangerous terrain, living outside, food scarcity, threats from rival tribes. And in that environment, the individuals who survived were not the calmest. They were the ones that were most alert to danger. So because of this, the nervous system developed an incredibly sensitive threat detection system. So imagine that our nervous system is like this. You know, these lasers that you see in movies when somebody's got a lot of money in their houses, secure, and they've got those lasers. So our nervous system is like those lasers. So when something crosses that laser, it kicks in. The alert system kicks in, the alarm system kicks in, and we're able to start dealing with whatever that threat is. So if you imagine if it was the other way around, if the nervous system didn't evolve and our early human ancestors were really chilled out, and they were just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we can see a tribe, a pack of hungry dogs coming our way. It's fine. We can deal with it. They wouldn't have that time to go, right, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to move, hide the food, get out of here. We need to go to our safe space, X, Y, Z. But the challenge that we face today is that our environment has also changed dramatically. But our biology has not evolved at that same pace. So our biology is still sitting around that fire, seeing a pack of hungry dogs heading our way. And our nervous system now, our biology doesn't know the difference between that and stress coming from work, social media, finances, uncertainty about the future. So all of these things that we worry about now, completely different to the threats that we would have faced hundreds, thousands of years ago, but the nervous system is still the same. So the core episode of this episode is simple. Your anxiety is not a malfunction. It's a nervous system trying to protect you. And once you understand that, once you have in your head, right, okay, this is here to protect me, it's okay, I'm safe, these feelings are fill in the gap. And the goal is not to try to eliminate anxiety completely. It's to really understand why it happens and how to work with the nervous system rather than fighting against it. So my own experience, I used to try and fight against it because I thought I shouldn't be anxious, I shouldn't be feeling this, I shouldn't be doing X, Y, Z. When I learned about the nervous system, I think I went deep when I was doing my coach certificate. And then I like to just read about it anyway, just for fun. I like to learn. But once I'd actually realized that, okay, this is a safety mechanism. When I was feeling anxious, I was able to label it at exactly that. And then also work out my own thoughts of, okay, I'm feeling this because of this. This is the situation. What can I control? What can't I control? What can I deal with right now? So it is about working with it, not against it. So when we talk about anxiety, we're really talking about the body's stress response, kind of like what I just mentioned. And we've got several key things in the brain and the body that are involved in this process. So a little bit of science. You've probably heard of some of these words, but I'm going to just do the way that I'm not a scientist. I don't go deep into the science and the biology. I just remember the bits that I need to. So hopefully this is going to help you too. So we have our amygdala, and that's our brain's alarm system. So just going back to those, you can remember that as the red lights and the fancy house with the good security. And this is a small structure, and this is inside the brain. And this is always scanning for potential danger. So think about those red lasers. It's scanning, it's fast, and it works faster than the logical brain. So we've got the amygdala, it's scanning, it's faster than the logical brain. So as it's scanning, when it sees a threat, then it's quick on it, rather than then thinking about, okay, actually, what is this threat and how much of a threat is it actually? So research in neuroscience does show us that the amygdala can trigger a response in milliseconds before we're actually consciously aware of what is happening. I think a really good example of this is, you'll know as a woman, we kind of switched onto this all of the time, especially if you're walking around late at night on your own and it's dark, we're scanning with our eyes, but then we might hear something in the distance. And this might be that our amygdala is kicking in and it's detecting a threat, and it will initiate a response that's going to increase chances of survival. So this might mean that our heartbeat starts to quicken, hands are sweaty, we get all of those things like, right, we're in danger, and then we have a logical physical reaction to that. But the thing is, with the amygdala, it doesn't distinguish well between real physical danger and perceived psychological threats. So that is the case of me this week. So the perceived danger, things that I can see, and then we've got the perceived psychological threats, the thoughts, the things that were like, right, what if, and that's kind of where I was at the beginning. I'd say the beginning of this week. It's only Tuesday. This week's gone a long time, so maybe the end of last week. I had to remind myself of all of this. This is why I'm doing the podcast as well. It's like, right, this is a good little revision for everybody over the nervous system. And if this is new to you, hopefully it's going to help. Let me know, reach out to me. But once the amygdala detects a potential threat, it then signifies another part of the brain. I always want to say hippopotamus for this, but it's the I'm not even going to be able to say it. Hypothalamus. There we go. And this activates the body's stress response. And this is called, by scientists, the HPA axis. Make sure I get this right. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So I know that's really hard. I had to write that down. My writing's really scruffy as well. And we've got this HPA. Just remember HPA if you need to. Or you just remember it's the response to the amygdala. So these are stress hormones, and particularly adrenaline and cortisol. So these hormones then prepare the body for immediate action. So again, this is why if you're living in stress, worry, anxiety, it affects your hormones, because we've got that spike of adrenaline and cortisol. We don't need that spike in adrenaline when we're receiving an email, or we're opening a bill, or we're paying for something that we don't want to pay for, and we get that stress response. But these do prepare our body for immediate action. Then what happens is this then activates our flight or fight. So everyone's heard of fight or flight. Then several physical changes start to happen. So I've already mentioned heart rate increases, breathing becomes faster, muscles tense, and there's a reason for all of these. So the heart rate increases to pump blood to the muscles, the breathing becomes faster to give us a bigger supply of oxygen, muscles becomes tense to get ready to move, digestion slows down because survival takes priority, and attention narrows to focus on potential threat. So these things that happen when we're anxious, we can't think of anything else because our attention is narrowed because we're focusing on that potential threat. So that's when we get those thoughts going over and over and over again. Digestion slows down, so this is why we go off our food. We might have a funny tummy. We get shoulder ache, lower back ache because our muscles are tense, etc. So all of these changes are useful if you're being chased by something. But in modern life, like I've just said, we don't need that to happen if it's just reading an email or having a difficult conversation. So this is where the recognizing what's happening comes in, and then we can start to relax the body, which I'll go into shortly. And our nervous system evolved in a very different environment to the one that we live today. So like I said, for most human history, threats were short-term and physical. We're going to get chased by something. I don't know if we got eaten by anything, but maybe fights, that kind of thing. I'm not an expert in human history. So when a predator appeared, the body activated the stress response, the danger passed, and the body returned to normal. However, our modern stress is different. Most of, or many of, our threats today are psychological, social, ongoing, or uncertain. So this can be stuff like work pressure that's a psychological threat. Like sometimes we put pressure on ourselves. There's pressure that we put on ourselves that doesn't really exist. So sometimes when we've got that work pressure, but we're giving it to ourselves because we're stressed about not getting things done, we won't ask for help. Financial insecurity, I think that one goes without saying. Relationship challenges, constant information and news for social media. So we're seeing all of this, we're being fed all of this information all of the time. And of course, our nervous system needs to absorb and take it in. And when we're reading these things or seeing these things, then our amygdala is kicking in, and then our hypothalamus is going to kick in, and then our hormones are going to kick in, and then again we have that stress response that we don't need because it's just something that we're seeing on social media. And the nervous system's not able to differentiate well. It can, but it doesn't do it well between physical danger and psychological danger. So it's literally there, it's doing its job. It's detecting uncertainty and potential risk. However, it's not always right. And again, we can then assess with our conscious brain of, right, okay, this is going on inside, and I do this. I'm like, right, okay, this is all that's happening now. And it really helps because it's a really nice reminder that this threat that I'm psychologically thinking about is not there. This is just my nervous system trying to protect me. And this is why the body can respond to a stressful message or an awkward social situation with the same physical sensations that were once used to escape danger. You open an email, your heart is pounding in your chest, you get sweaty, you feel a little bit sick, all of these examples. I'll give you a few, like, when you get a message like, we need to talk, come to my office, can we talk tomorrow? Immediately, our mind goes to the worst case scenarios. Am I in trouble? Did I make a mistake? I'm going to get the sack. What did I do wrong? And again, you've got that racing heart, tightness in the chest, feel a bit sick. What's happening is the brain is trying to predict and prepare for that danger, even though it's not a danger. What the amygdala is noticing is the uncertainty, and that uncertainty activates the threat response before our rational mind kicks in. So it's just doing its job. And if you feel that happening, Label it. Okay, this is just my amygdala. If you can't remember the word, just say brain. This is just a part of my brain that's kicking in because it's got a threat from this email because I can't control it. I don't know what's going on. And this is why I'm getting these feelings. However, you can then replace that with, okay, rationally, this is just an email. I'm not under any threat. Go for a walk, calm yourself down. We can get it from social media, posting something online and, checking the reactions. Humans are highly social who depend on group acceptance for survival. So being rejected means losing protection, losing food, losing, the people around you. So because of this, the brain treats social feedback as extremely important as well. This is why we get that little dopamine hit when or if hopefully you can train yourselves not to do the check-in. But when social media first came, I think everyone got a little bit obsessed with the likes, the comments. You get that little dopamine hit because our body, our human biology, we're social. We want that tribal, pat on the back. So when we post something online and worry about how others see it, the nervous system, again, is going to kick in because it thinks that we're not going to get any food and it's a threat. The same with relationships. You start noticing changes in your partner or friend, they're suddenly taking ages to reply and, you have memories of this happening before. So again, the thoughts come up. Are they upset? Is something about to change? Hello, all those stress response things that we've already just listed. I know that you're thinking, but listening to this, thinking, yep, and you can see it. So now you know why it's happening. Another reason anxiety appears so easily is something psychologists call a negativity bias. So the brain is actually wired to prioritize negative information over positive information. This is because missing a threat historically had severe consequences. I've already mentioned this, but if the early humans ignored a potential predator, the cost could be death. If they mistakenly assumed danger was non-existent, cost could have been death. Over thousands of generations then, our brain evolved to favour over-detection of threat rather than undetection. That makes sense because we don't want to die. So again, if you feel that you're in the over-estimation, the over-detection, now you can label it. Your brain is trying to protect you from danger, even if the danger is not actually there. You can then do the tools, meditate, remind yourself, I'm not in danger. I am okay. So it does become overprotection. And this is where living with anxiety can become a problem. And this is what happened to me. Because before I knew all of this and I was able to sort of work it all out in my own head, what's going on, and this is why this is happening, anxiety became problematic and my nervous system was dysregulated. It was dysregulated, but it was activated. So it was on for longer periods of time. So the actual stress response is supposed to be short, sharp burst, activation followed by recovery. Same as anything. We work out, we need to recover. But modern life keeps us in this constant state of low-level alertness. And this is where I feel like I was last week and probably still am a little bit now, although I feel like I'm able to, over the past few days, just to control it a little bit. But things that we can add. So I've come off social media again this week. I don't think I went on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Today is Tuesday. I've just posted on Instagram, but I kind of came off really quickly. Didn't do a big scroll today because I know now that for me, digital stimulation feeds those fight or flight feelings in me. Luckily, I've been able to sleep. But again, these things can cause a lack of sleep, a lack of rest, not being able to settle, chronic stress. All of these things come in because our nervous system is in overdrive. So over time, our nervous system becomes more sensitive. So this is why we might have nervous and anxious friends. They're more sensitive because they live their life more in this state. But again, can we take it from how, I'm not nervous, anxious friend. Well, I used to be. And like I said, I've controlled it a little bit more. But I can remember going on a camping trip and I was just really anxious that we were going to be in the tent and they were driving these dune buggy things in the big cars. And for some reason, I was so anxious that they were not going to see us and just run over us in our tents. But no one else even had that thought. They were like, where's that even come from? And I didn't even know. But my nervous system was in overdrive. And that's kind of like where I lived. And I was always thinking about the worst thing that could happen. So now I know that my nervous system was just protecting me. And if that happened again, I would, have a word with myself, go through the questions in my head. What can you control? But when we don't understand that, these little small triggers, so my trigger when we were camping was just the cars driving around, not looking like they knew where they were going. And it triggered that response. And it's kind of like a little smoke alarm. So a smoke alarm is useful when there's an actual fire. But if your smoke alarm keeps going off all of the time, it's disruptive and it's exhausting. So that is where some of us live, with this overactive, sensitive smoke alarm that goes off when we just put the kettle on. It's the steam that sets it off, or burn our toast when we don't need it. And again, we don't want to remove anxiety completely, because anxiety is part of our body's protection. It's intelligent. But instead, what we need to do is help our nervous system return to a balanced state more easily. So this is where the tools come in. Of course, breathing is going to be one of the first, because it's something that we can do anywhere, anytime. You can't just drop down and start doing yoga if your nervous system's kicked in and you're in the office at work. But what you can do is breathe. You can come into slow, controlled breaths. Long exhale, so inhale is shorter. I always go by inhale 5, exhale 6. That's what I do in yoga when I'm teaching. If someone wants to go a little bit longer, of course they can. And what this does is, when the exhale is a little bit longer, is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. This is our rest and digest. This shifts the body out of survival mode. This is why when we sit down and we've had a long day and we've maybe been stressed, we'll naturally go because we're connecting to the nervous system. That's why dogs do it. That's why dogs sigh. You're like, why are you sighing? It's because they're connecting to the nervous system. They're letting the nervous system know that everything's okay. Of course, then we got a bit of physical movement, walking, stretching, yoga, shaking, something to just break the cycle of the stress. And, again, if you're at work and you've got that stress cycle going, you can't just take yourself and, grab your yoga mat, but get up, move away from your desk, go to the bathroom, splash yourself with water, take a few breaths, something that can help the body complete the stress response cycle, because we need that recovery after. That is natural. So again, this is where the nervous system gets stuck, because we don't find that recovery. We're not going through the stress and then recovering from it. We're living in that stressful way. Another way, and I used to do this when I was going clubbing, is to focus on what's around you and notice the safety cues. So I would look around the room if it was packed, and I would get a little bit claustrophobic, but I would focus on, right, okay, I can see that window, there's the door, I can move, I focus on my feet, and making sure that you're really observing around you. There's no immediate physical threat. What I like to do now, I don't go clubbing, but I'll come into 5 senses. So what can I hear? What can I see? What can I smell? So this also brings you nicely into the present moment. But as you're doing that, you can see there's no physical threat right in front of you right now. So it's allowing your brain to just find that update. And I really do think that anxiety is often misunderstood or perceived as like a weakness or a failure. I used to think the same thing. I used to I am an anxious person, and it was a negative. But from a biological perspective, it's actually evidence that the nervous system's doing exactly what it was meant to do. It's meant to protect life. So it's doing its thing. So next time you feel it, just remind yourself, right, okay, my body's just doing its thing. And then we can, the challenge is then bringing it back down, because remember, the nervous system is thousands of years old, and now we live in a very different world. So when we understand this, and for me, this is when my anxiety relationship changed, because I was not trying to then fight the nervous system, and I stopped judging myself, but I started to work with it. So I was like, right, okay, this has triggered me. This is a real response. This is what's real. This is what's fake. These thoughts, the intrusive thoughts that I get when I'm going through an anxious phase are crazy. I'm like, whoa, where's this come from? I have to remind myself, your body's just your biological brain is just trying to protect you here. So, it's a random thought, and no, I'm not going to do that random thought. But I can go, right, okay, it's, perceiving, it's looking for threats, and I'll breathe. I'll listen to some music, meditation. And because the goal is not to eliminate anxiety, we need it. We need to be able to feel that threat at times and act on it, because again, if we didn't, we're going to get eaten. If we're just sat around waiting, we're going to get eaten. But we need to deal with it. So is this threat real right now in front of me? Yes, act on it. Is it? If it's a no, control it. So you come back into your breath and you shake it off and you let it go. And I know that sounds easy when I just say it like that, but taking into account everything I've just said, and it might be for the first few times after listening to this podcast that you're like thinking, okay, I don't know how this is going to work. Test it out. Go through the science. All right, it's okay. This is just my amygdala. This is just my brain doing this. I'm okay. And this threat that I've got in front of me right now is not going to hurt me. I can control this by not going on social media, not going on the news, speaking to my friend, going for a walk, assessing the situation. So we want to build enough awareness and regulation that the nervous system learns when it's safe to relax again. So for me last week, I was like, right, okay, this is what's going on in the world. Can I control it? No. What can I control? I'll come off social media. I'll come off the news. I'm going to stop getting into conversations about it. I'm going to live my days as I was living my days before. And when I get an alert, I will act how I need to act with the alert, and just allowing myself when I'm in the car just to breathe, listening to podcasts, not listening to any podcasts at the moment that are also discussing the situation, because again, it's out of my control. And that's it. That's where I'm kind of at right now. But I wanted to share with you guys everything that I've just said. I know there's a lot there. I've got a big scruffy page of notes today. But like I said, this really did help me. It was a nice reminder of when this all started last week of, right, okay, I know this, I know what's going on, and I'm able to work through this. I would love to hear from you. So if this resonated with you, please let me know, reach out to me. If you have any questions, you can get me on social media. I'm on Instagram during the week, mostly, some days, not always, but at Joanne_wealth. So reach out to me. You can email me, joannewealth@gmail.com, if you do have any questions. And keep your eyes out for my vlog this week as well. Vlog and podcast are going to go live on the same day. Thursday is my posting day. I'm going to try and get a podcast recorded before I go on my doggy moon. But if I don't, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.